Hello everybody and welcome to Ed's Boat. Well, it's come round really quickly, but I have owned the boat and been working on it for a year. So what I thought I'd do in this episode is a recap of where we started from and where we are today, and I'm going to try and cost it all in as best I can because a lot of people have asked for a costing review. So I thought the 1 year point of working on the boat would be as good a time as any. So we'll get over to the boat, we'll have a quick scout round at the work we've done so far and try and put some sort of cost together. When I first bought the boat, it was on the hard standing in the boatyard and there was nothing in it. All the work needed doing, the only job that had been done was the ballast was in and the floorboards were down, but there was nothing else. In fact, the boat was absolutely full of rubbish, and the first 2 weeks was sifting through that rubbish, finding anything that was any good and keeping it and sorting out the stuff that was rubbish, and it was mainly rubbish, but it was absolutely chocker full with it. So the first couple of 3 weeks I was working on the boat was just figuring out where I wanted to go and tidying up. Now, the weather was, it was this time of year, but the weather was really good. It was ever so hot, so to work outside the boat was better than working inside because it was too hot. So the first job I did was to put in a brand new gas locker. So I made that, welded it all up and fitted it, and it just cost me the price of the steel to put in, approximately £30. So that was quite cost effective. The next job I did was the cratch cover. There it is. It's only temporary and it was made out of old welding curtains that were being thrown out where I work. So it didn't actually cost me a penny to do, but it needed covering over and it needed to be watertight while I worked inside. So again, that was another job done, but it didn't cost me a penny other than my time. The next job I did was inside the well deck. Right, under the floor inside the well deck is the water tank, which you can't see now, but that has been repiped. New water pipes for filling up, new water vent including fittings are welded to the side. Again, that didn't cost me a penny, they were fittings that came with the boat. I put down a temporary wooden floor inside the well deck, which was scrap wood from the boatyard, so that didn't cost me a penny either. But the hoses and fittings for that were somewhere in the region of about £25, so not too bad to just get all this system under control. I have put a lick of paint round the well deck, which we saw in a previous video, and that cost £24 or £25 for a tin, but I've not finished doing that yet and I've still got loads left. But yeah, it was a cost so far. The next job was to put the engine in. Now the engine came with the boat included in the purchase price, but I had to put it in myself, but I had to pay somebody to lift it in with a crane. That cost me £80 to have that engine just lifted in on the canal side with a forklift truck. But nothing else on the engine has cost me any money other than the cooling hoses that I've put on for the air cooling system. I bought 2 of those, they were about £15 for the pair. So not too expensive to get the engine in, everything else came with the boat. I had to fit the Morse controls. Now the Morse controls again came with the boat, but I had to make the backing plate to mount it all on. Again, this was scrap metal which I'd scrounged. It didn't cost me a penny, welded it on myself. The same with the stop button, just a tiny bit of offcut. Actually that came with the boat. Just cleaned it all up, drilled it to size and welded it on. So to put the Morse controls on, absolutely nothing. Including the paint that I painted with, that came with the boat as well. Well, while we're at the back of the boat, we may as well move from the back towards the front. And if you remember, I built the control box. Now, the switch gear were quite expensive. That was £60. The 2 voltmeter buttons were literally a couple of pound off eBay each, so they're hardly anything at all, not worth worrying about. And this switch here was about £6.50. I forget where I actually got that from, but not too expensive. But the panel all in, round about sort of £70 to wire so far. There is a little bit more to come in. The key switch that is on it, again, that it was a brand new key switch, came with the boat. So and I reused off the original one the ignition light for it. So again, didn't cost me a penny. I had to buy a little bit of wood to make the cabinet, but we're literally talking about sort of £4 or £5 for the wood. Everything else is offcut from the rest of the refit from the boat. Well, the boat had to be insulated because it was totally stripped out inside, and I used a Celotex board. Now, I was given quite a bit of this, enough to do sort of a third of the roof and about a quarter of the sides. It's just stuff that I'd scrounged, people offered me, whatever. But I ended up buying quite a lot of it, and it adds up and it becomes quite expensive. So insulation in 25mm and 40mm Celotex board came to £330. Well, if you remember, I bought my slimline LED lights, which are there, and fitted those, and they're great and I like them, but it was nearly £100 to put those in. I also did the roof in tongue and groove, and I like it and I think it looks good, but it did cost £620 approximately. It might have cost a couple of quid more, a couple of quid less maybe, I don't know. If I'd have done that in 3-section boarding, it would have been considerably cheaper, but I like the tongue and groove, so I put it in, but it was expensive. I fitted the kitchen, bought the kitchen units from B&Q, which is not the cheapest way of doing it, but it was convenient and it saved a lot of time for me. The kitchen units were approximately £300, the work surfaces £60, the fridge was a used fridge, about 12 months old, £30. I had to line out the sides of the boat, so I lined out the top with 6mm ply and the bottom with 9mm ply. The top half cost me approximately £120, and the bottom section, although I used this for the partitionings as well and the bulkheads, cost me £300 approximately. Let's not forget the cooker and the gas conversion and everything else, all inclusive of the purchase price, £180. I put the sink in, all the plumbing and the tap, and I actually forget how much that was, but I think all in less than £100. I had to buy a water boiler for my hot water on demand. This came as a kit with the flue and everything together. I did have to drill a hole in the roof, and that was a lot of trouble to do that, and purchase a couple of extra fittings to get it piped in, but it all in approximately £250. Got the newly fitted shower, which is all sealed up now and working really well, but the cost of fitting all that, £300. Ooh. Well, in the bedroom I built a bed. It took a little while to do it, but all the wood was reused or reclaimed. The cushions came out of my van. Didn't cost me a penny in materials, it was stuff I had already. It did take a little bit of doing, but it was not an extra cost. In the engine bay I made 2 battery trays. One lot for the leisure battery, one for the starter battery. The angle iron was reclaimed metal off my old bed at home. The wooden tops came with the boat, they're the old partitions, and I use those as lids to bolt down. Threaded bar was scrounged. Split charge relay, that came as a kit including fuses and cables. £60 that cost. And the 2 isolator switches for each bank of batteries, £6 each, and I made the brackets myself. Well, that was a really quick tour around the boat, the work done so far. Believe me, it was a lot more involved than that. But there's a few things which I can't video for you now because you can't see them, but they were still a cost. And that's things like the water pump, the gas pipes, all the wiring that runs through the boat, the gulper pump in the bathroom. Things like that you can't see, but it was still a cost. Now I have added all that up and I come to a figure of £3,250. But there's probably lots of things I've forgotten. You know, a grinding disc here, clips there, odds and sods that I've probably slipped my mind at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to round that up to approximately £4,000, which is what I figure out is a realistic amount for the work or materials I put into the boat so far. Now I need to add on the price of the boat in the first place, and a lot of people have asked me what I paid for the boat. Well, I paid £7,000 for the boat, which had been totally overplated and rebottomed, but it didn't have an engine in it, it didn't have any sort of interior, it had a rusty gas locker, and I needed to do a lot of work on it. So far the whole boat has cost me to purchase and get into the state it's in now, £11,000. Well, there we are, 12 months in and I'm a lot poorer, but I did get to where I wanted to be by the summer, which was a usable boat. So a little bit late, but got to where I wanted to be in the end. Now I figure out there's going to be at least another 12 months of work left on the boat to get it finished. There's a lot more to do, believe me. And I think maybe another £1,000, maybe a bit more of materials need to go into the boat again. But really pleased with the way it's gone so far, and I've enjoyed working on it. Right, in the next episode, well, things might be moving around a bit. But until then, take care, and I'll see you soon.